With the project, because I also do I don't only do the activism I get paid for. For Germany, it was a long fight as well to come to marriage equality. Up to 1994, we still had a law criminalizing male homosexual acts. So it was like in 94 it was abolished. So until then it was criminalized. So yeah, it was a long way as well. The first time that officially there was a demand for marriage equality was 1990 from the LSVD, like the organization that you also met in Tallinn Pride in the Exchange. And then in 1992 there was an action made from 250 same-sex couples that went to the registry office and demanded to be married. So it was also called the registry office action. So like there was a lot of actions happening before actually there was marriage equality being closer. And then in 2001 we had civil partnership in Germany, and a lot of people said like, oh, you know, like now you've got it, it's like a marriage, it's close enough, but it wasn't the same rights. If you had a civil partnership, for example, if one of the partners died, it would still be the right of the parents to make funeral arrangements and not of the partner. So clearly it wasn't the same, and for that reason there was a lot of lawsuits coming from queer people that were like in a civil partnership demanding same rights. And for a long time, the argument by the government was that, oh, you know, like lesbians and gay people, they can marry, just not the same sex, like, you know. So it's not discrimination, but then in the end, it was seen as discrimination. And then in 2017, we got the same-sex marriage. But it was also not that easy. The decision was postponed over 30 times by the politicians in charge because they didn't want to have it, so they tried to, you know, like just make it last longer until that day comes. But then, because the main party that was in charge was the CDU, which is the Christian Democracy Party or Union, and they are pretty openly against. They were pretty openly against same-sex marriage. But then all the other parties that were possible coalition parties got together and said that for them to even think about a coalition with that big party in charge, there needs to be the law happening for same-sex marriage. So that's how in the end it came to happen in 2017. But still to this day, it's not like the marriage equality is truly equal, because, for example, when it comes to kids and parental rights, if a lesbian couple has a kid, only one of the two women will be the mother on the certificate, and the other woman will need to go through the whole adoption process to become the second parent. Whereas if a man and a woman are married, they both will be registered in the birth certificate, even if it's not the biological father. So it's still not the same rights. Here on what we do with the project. So obviously the main thing we do is provide workshops for school classes. Well, I have to say I'm from like the very west from Germany. Even before I moved to Hamburg, I lived in a small village in the very west of Germany. So I feel like I'm not really an expert on that. The only thing I can say is, while there is a kind of a division between the east and the west, there's also one between the west and the south. Like the south of Germany is also really conservative and really known for being conservative. So it's not just a problem of east and west, I think. I mean, even after the same-sex marriage was allowed in 2017, there's one really big party. It's also a Christian political party, but one that only exists in Bavaria. And they wanted to sue against the same-sex marriage when it went through. They didn't in the end, but they wanted to. So it was actually more coming from the south that went against the same-sex marriage being legal. But Germany is like divided in like 16 states, and some things will be the decision will be made locally, like with schools, for example. The schools laws are made locally, and each of the 16 states have their own law. But with marriage and the whole same-sex marriage laws, it wasn't a local decision. It was like a Germany-wide decision. So in the end, it didn't really matter if some parts of Germany were more against it or not, because in the end, the whole parliament decided. But it's not like it was a really, really clear decision. It was still quite, it could have happened that the vote went a different way. There were like almost 400 votes for yes, but almost 230 votes for no. So it wasn't a clear positive voting, no? It was still quite close to not making it. So yeah, and even the Chancellor of Germany, like Angela Merkel, she voted against it. Grade 9 and up, and we do them with volunteers who talk to the kids. It's still really, really important to have pride marches, because even though we've got marriage equality, there's still a lot of injustices. There's still a lot of structural discrimination in Germany going on as well. So there is a lot that needs to be done. But also we've got a backlash right now, I think, in a lot of countries, in Germany as well, with the opinion rising in like hate and violence against LGBTQIA+ people. So for that alone, we need to be visible and keep being on the streets. We still don't have protection under the German constitution. Like we need to be included in the constitutional law as a minority that can't be discriminated, like make it law. Also the situation for queer refugees or otherwise intersectional discriminated people that are part of the LGBTQIA+ community need to be stronger. There needs to be, there's a lot that needs to be done. And also, like right now, we still fight for the self-determination law. It was before the law for transsexuals, and it just now is in the making. They are in the making of a new law for it. So there's still a lot to be done. It's not like once you've got same-sex marriage, all the problems are solved and everyone can be who they are and don't get discriminated. So as long as that's not the case, we will need pride marches. Issues, also talking about the different terms. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, as I told you, there is still a lot of discrimination happening. But if you ask the people in Germany that are not themselves LGBTQIA or know people that are LGBTQIA, most of them think it's not a problem anymore, because we do have things like same-sex marriage, and obviously when we got it, it was celebrated really publicly, and it was quite visible. So everyone now thinks, oh, it's all solved. Like, why do you even fight for anything anymore? You've got what you wanted. But that is obviously not the case, as I pointed out before. For example, just this year, like in 2023, the law changed so that gay men can easier do blood donations. And before that, that wasn't really allowed and really complicated. Or just in 2021, there was a law to protect intersex children from undergoing unnecessary surgery when they're born. Or conversion therapy was just banned in 2020. So all of that happened after marriage equality. So there is a lot that was done since then, and there needs to be done more. And even with the marriage, like a lot of people in society perceive it as equal, because that's what it's like marketed as, but it's still not the same with adoption rights and everything. So we need to have the self-determination law, we need to have the change of the constitution, we need the same parental rights for same-sex marriages that we have for straight marriages. We need to bring more intersectional perspectives into the fight against discrimination. We have to work against the rise in the violence and the hate towards the community. And also what happened before, there was so many injustices, like I think until 2011, if you want to official transition, you had to get sterilized. So there needs to be compensation for all the people that had to go through these injustices. Yeah, and also I think because while we still have a lot to do, we're at the same spot, like at the same time, we're in a quite privileged spot, obviously, and we're quite far in some regards. So I feel like Germany, as a political, quite strong country, also needs to have that in mind and use that power to help the community internationally, because I feel like there's a lot that could be done with the perspective of the power that Germany has internationally, and we could use that for fighting for human rights in countries where it's more of a problem.
There is a queer community center in Hamburg, and the school classes come to us and come there so we can show the room.
I mean, that's not an easy question, because I feel like for me it's quite safe. But I know friends who are, for example, people of color who are like not white, who might not have German papers, and for them it's really hard sometimes, and not always a safe country. So I feel like it depends a lot on the perspective and on the position you're in. And it's not like there's no hate happening or no discrimination happening, but what we have is we have laws that will protect you, so it shouldn't be allowed at least. Like there's places you can go to for help, so I feel like I don't think that there is anywhere where like a real safe space exists where you don't have to worry about anything anymore, but I feel like it's quite safe. Like in most of the times it's quite safe regarding of your position maybe. So yeah, it's one of the safer countries I feel, but it's not like everything is solved and you don't have to worry at all. For example, last year after a Pride, like at the Pride event in Münster, in a smaller German city, a trans man died because he was attacked at Pride. He was trying to protect others who were discriminated and was beaten up quite badly, and he died. So, I mean, as long as that happens, it's not a safe space, is it? But at the same time, it's not as much violence as in other countries.